Hello and welcome to For Fox's Sake. This is the preview. Rob Hayes and Jono Towers with you. Jono Towers' tagline, for those of you listening along, says "Zero Fox given," and we will get into just how many Fox you give about this weekend's trip to Saturday in a few minutes' time, Jono. But let us know what you're thinking if you're watching along at home. This is the preview, so keep it within reason, as close to looking ahead to the Norwich game. Not looking forward. That's a very different thing. Looking ahead to the Norwich game on Saturday. For those of you that are new to the podcast or recent watchers and listeners, you're very welcome. This is the preview, does what it says on the tin. We also have the big show with Pete Selby, where no Leicester City-based topic is off the table. And in fact, this week's big show was entitled Crisis at Leicester City. There is also the opportunity for you to win in our competition. You can win a shirt of your choice, a Leicester shirt of your choice, let me add, or a full kit if you so prefer. All you need to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching this live or if you're watching it back on YouTube, please just click subscribe. That's all you have to do. You don't even need to share anything or comment anything. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel. You've got until December the 1st to do so. And Pete has assured the listeners, the viewers, and me that he will get that prize out in time for Christmas. So it's a little Christmas present from us to you. Our job today is to look ahead, as I said, to Norwich City on Saturday. The big show talked of a club in crisis. I agree. I wasn't on the big show, for what it's worth. I agree that there is a wider crisis around the club. I'm not sure I fully subscribe to it being a full-blown crisis on the pitch. Don't get me wrong. It's not great. Are we in full crisis mode yet? Not quite, I don't think. Jono Towers, I'll start off. Are we in crisis on the pitch, just exclusively on the pitch? And are you optimistic or pessimistic for Saturday?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're in a mini crisis for sure. Certainly up front, there's a huge crisis. There is no one up there that can score us any goals. There is, I think that's what we've talked about in the big show the other day. Basically, yeah, up front, there is a big crisis, I think. We haven't replaced the big hole that was Jamie Vardy leaving. And yeah, I think John Rudkin hasn't done us any favours with the signings he's made, i.e. Carranza. I just don't see what he brings to the setup, to be honest. It's early days maybe, but I think we've seen enough from Carranza to see that he isn't hitting the ground running and he isn't the answer to score us the goals that we need. So, yeah, I think a mini crisis. I think all in all, the other parts of the team, albeit the way we're playing isn't great either. But I do believe that we can turn it round. And I do believe that there is still hope to try and get some sort of tune out of this squad. However, yeah, the lack of goals is just crippling us big time. So
let's start then at the other end of the pitch, because the lack of goals is not new news. That is something that's been plaguing us all season long, particularly in terms of the fact that the strikers and the forward players haven't been contributing as much as we would hope. But the big team news is that Jakub Stolarczyk misses out for Norwich, and possibly a game or two after the international break. Groin injury that saw him come off at half-time against Borough in midweek. It's kind of been the only real position on the podcast, on the preview, that we've not necessarily had to talk about, because he's had a solid season. He's not really been at fault for anything in particular. It was always expected that he would come through and become Leicester's number one when Hermansen went, especially but given the fact that he got the number one shirt as well. And we'd seen enough from him in the last couple of seasons to think, okay, now he's 24. He's had his taste of Premier League football. He's got all the attributes. And I think he's done absolutely fine this season so far. But now we have a conversation to have around the goalkeeper, and what you'd have to say at this moment in time is that Asmir Begovic is leading the way, because he's the one that's been on the bench all season so far. He's the one that obviously then came on against Borough on Tuesday night. I personally didn't have. All right, let's talk about it. Should Begovic have come for the big high cross that looped into the box that ultimately the rest of the defenders failed to deal with, and Luke Ayling headed in to destroy our hopes of some kind of resurgence in form or uptake in results? Was Begovic at fault for you, Jono?
Partly, yeah. He was part of the problem. Absolutely. I think Stolarczyk probably would have come out and caught it, or, at least got a hand to it or punched it or something. So I do think that he's partly at fault. However, Mavididi looked, having just come on 10 minutes before or something, looking sluggish as hell to try and block the cross. What's that all about? And then, no one getting their head on it. So, yeah, I think he's partly at fault. But there's a catalogue of errors there, really, to have conceded that goal late on. Game management as well, whether they thought they'd, we've said it millions of times this season about the entitledness, the complacency, whether they thought they got the win in the bag and took their eye off the ball. It sort of looked like that from Mavididi's point of view. It's like, well, I don't need to bother, blocking this. We've already got the 3 points. No, you fight to the last whistle. So for me, I think Mavididi was to blame as much as anyone else. Maybe a collective thing for me.
Yeah, certainly not exclusively Begovic's fault. And I think the save in the one-on-one against Conway looked surprisingly agile for a man that's closing in on 40. Not many professional footballers make it to that kind of age. I think obviously he brings a huge amount of experience to proceedings. He's played at the highest level internationally, Premier League, Europe, the lot. I would imagine that he would be a calming presence to a defence that hasn't always looked particularly watertight this season. They've not been horrendous, but they've certainly not made you feel supremely confident of a clean sheet. I guess then the other thing is we don't know. We can only speculate. But where is Vieites? When he first came in, we knew that he'd missed a big chunk of pre-season because he left Betis in the sort of middle of the summer and had a few weeks where he wasn't with a club. But I think I personally expected the Begovic signing to be the sort of experienced third goalkeeper, really good presence around the training ground. There, if there's a bit of a goalkeeping crisis, but Vieites, who had been the number 2 in La Liga for Betis last season, had played 8 games in the Europa Conference League, UEFA Conference League, it was called last year. I was looking at that. The title changed 3 years in, and nobody even noticed. Anyway, he played 8 games in Europe as they got through all the way to the final. Got dropped for the final. Interesting. But I expected him to come in and at least sort of think about challenging Stolarczyk for the jersey. And I presume we're going to see him in the matchday squad on Saturday, but it's likely to be Begovic. But it's an interesting one that he's been basically absent so far.
Yeah, just on the name change, it's still the Carling Cup for me, to be honest. Or the Coca-Cola Cup, whatever it's called now. God knows what, the League Cup. But yeah, on the goalkeeper scenario, yeah, we'll find out, won't we? I guess if Stolarczyk's out, then maybe Begovic is the sensible choice. But we'll see if he's on the bench or not. I mean, is he injured? I don't know. Is he still? I don't know. We'll find out if he's on the bench.
Yeah, he got half a mention in the press conference.
Yeah,
he got half a mention. I'm surprised that there wasn't more direct questioning at Cifuentes as to who will start on Saturday. Whether he would have answered it or not is another matter entirely. But he kind of the way it reads, some of the stuff that he said, it was Begovic. Oh yeah, Vieites is there as well. So I think he's going to make an appearance in the match day squad, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But I think we're all thinking it's likely that it's going to be Begovic to start, and that's fine. Look, if you're not sure
with that, if if Stolarczyk's out, then I think Begovic has been around the block. He can cover, albeit he's older than he used to be, but aren't we all, I suppose, in that regard? But to be honest, he's been around the block, and so in his experience, so that's what we need at the back. And I'm sure he's got enough in him to play a handful of games until maybe Stolarczyk comes back. Hopefully, a groin injury is only going to keep him out for a handful of matches, and we'll be back to where we were. So I haven't got any concerns there regarding the goalkeeper situation.
No, that's it. Yeah, it's a stopgap, isn't it? And it's an experienced stopgap as well. Let's just have a quick look at people that are watching along live. If you are doing so, do get in contact. Blue Fox Forever say evening all. Good evening, Blue Fox Forever. Let us know what you think on the goalkeeping situation or anything at all to do with looking ahead to Norwich. Interesting one, this. I guess I wasn't going to bring it up, but we can because Tony's brought it up, and it's your podcast as much as ours, people watching and listening at home. Tony Smith saying lose on Saturday, then Marty's position is untenable. Now, I know on the big show, Jono, that there was a lot of conversation that if there wasn't a positive result / win against Borough on Tuesday night, that would or could or should, in some people's opinion, be the end of Cifuentes' tenure at the club. Now, try not to get too much into the big old crisis word around all the decisions around the club. Ultimately, Cifuentes is, in my opinion, doing an all right job with the current situation that he has. There is no doubt whatsoever. He's got players that don't necessarily want to be there. He's got players picking up paychecks 5, 6, 7 times more than they ever deserve to be getting paid. He's at a club with a fan base that is struggling to find some positivity to cling on to. We all know that, but apart from the odd name here or there, and would they come or not is another question. But I personally would give Cifuentes a few more games. I don't see Saturday as win or be booted out. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are if we'd got absolutely hammered on Tuesday night and with another similar performance to what we saw at the weekend, and then we saw the similar again against Norwich, I could see his point. Marty's position would be untenable. I think most of the fan base might be calling for a change. However, we did see a bit of a rally, I think, on Tuesday night, and we saw him prepared to do something different with the formation. He brought in Ben Nelson. He brought in Oliver Skipp. For what that's worth, I suppose. But he was trying something different, and he recognised that he couldn't carry on the way he was going. So I think that for me, he's in a position where he's not safe, but he's recognised that he needs to do something different, and hopefully we see evidence of that again in the next few games where he's trying something different, and then hopefully something comes right. So I don't think he's totally, totally going to be gone, but I think he's got to be careful. I think if we do lose and we have a really shocking performance against Norwich, I think there will be more voices in that direction. I don't think Norwich is the be all and end all game, but certainly I'm probably with you. Give him, based on the result against Middlesbrough, he deserves probably a few more games to show that he's prepared to make some adjustments and try something different. So
I think it's interesting because
for me,
sorry, yeah. I think it's interesting because a lot of the time, if a team was in this position from a footballing sense, then most fans and a lot of the media would be going straight after the manager. But what I find interesting in this situation is that I think a lot of the fans are kind of in the same viewpoint as me, is they see that Cifuentes is doing his best for what that's worth. He is a reasonable Championship manager. He's quite a likable character, and actually the understanding and the understanding of the fans is that the club's not being run the right way. There are a lot of players who are stealing a living, and actually Cifuentes is just the middleman who's trying to get the best out of everybody. I think he's trying his best to get and keep the fans on side. And I agree with you that we saw on Tuesday against Borough, by no means a wholeheartedly committed performance, but a much more sort of intense performance in terms of, apart from Mavididi failing to block the cross, just a bit more running, a bit more tackling, a little bit more desire. Nowhere near the level that we want to see yet, don't get me wrong, but I think that's a reason why somebody like Skip was brought in, because we talk about Samari all the time on the podcast, whichever type of show you're watching or listening to, Samari always comes up. He is one of the either laziest or slowest thinking footballers I've ever seen in a Leicestershire. And if you want someone to just run about in the middle of the park, regardless of what you think of their level of quality, Oliver Skip's that person. He covers a lot of ground. He's an honest, hard-working footballer. For all of his faults, those are the pros. So we put him in. Great. The change in formation is something that I'll pick up next, because we're looking ahead to Norwich on Saturday. And when the team was released on Tuesday night, we were thinking that with three centre-backs named, it could have been a very sort of central three at the back, Luke Thomas wide left, and maybe Fatawu doing a sort of attacking. You won't ever call him a wing back, because I don't think he likes defending enough to be called a wing back, but maybe on the right side of a sort of a midfield five. And it didn't really look like that. Akoli, for me, played pretty much as a right back, but a fairly cautious one, if you like, which did allow Luke Thomas to get up the other side, and maybe Akoli tucked in a little bit. Because Akoli wasn't going up the right to support Fatawu, James naturally drifted out to that right-hand side to offer a bit of a double up there and a bit of balance. So it wasn't necessarily on paper 3-5-2, but it kind of shifted into those patterns as and when the possession allowed. Were you interested to see a centre-back in Akoli moved across to right back when Chowdhury and Ricardo, both on the bench, both in the leadership team, both have played right back a lot this season, both not selected, Akoli across to right back, Nelson at centre back? It was quite a surprise. Do you see that happening again on Saturday?
Yeah, I was a bit bemused by the formation and what he was trying to do, frankly. It was definitely different to the game on Saturday. He's definitely changed things around. I think it's alluding to having three at the back, isn't it, almost? However, he's possibly not quite got the personnel right, if he's going to do that. I mean, far from me to tell Marty what to do, but if you are going three at the back, then I think Akoli has played right back or right of a centre-back position before. Likewise, I think Fast can play left back. Not to say that I'd want that to happen, but, there's some adaptability there. And I think what I did like is Ben Nelson playing. I think we've been calling that for a while. I think he had a decent game. So I was pleased to see that. In terms of out wide, a 3-5-2, I can see that being something that might work for me. Someone like Jordan Ayew, I don't know what he was doing the other night, the Borough game, but he wasn't playing centrally, it didn't seem. So for me, I think you've got to play Ayew down the middle with another striker, be it Carranza or Daka, as a sort of support role. I think we said this a few weeks ago about the Okazaki kind of role. I see sort of Ayew doing that kind of job with another striker potentially doing the goal scoring, or hopefully. So I don't know. 3-5-2, I think, has got something about it for me. It plays to the strengths of what we've got, I think, in terms of the centre midfield. I think could look half decent if we play the right personnel. We've got JJ, who I think has been, a decent acquisition or a decent person to bring in. Winks alongside him, and then if you've got Skip, hard-working, buzzing about, I think that's a decent three in midfield. And then you got two up front. What you do out wide, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sold on Luke Thomas being, marauding forward or whatever. So whether it be Mavididi and Fatawu or Munga and Fatawu, I don't really know. But yeah, how you protect the sides, I don't know. It's beyond my pay grade as a football coach. But I like that might play to our strengths of being able to control the centre of the pitch with those three in the middle.
Yeah, I think the wide position is the difficult one there. If you go 3-5-2, there's a formation that I quite like. I'll get to Daedalus, who's watching online live at the moment. I'll get to your comment in a moment. Thank you. What I quite like is the formation that Crystal Palace and Manchester United are using in the Premier League at the moment. Is sort of a 3-4-2-1, and across the four, the two wide players in what you would call the midfield four, if you like, are predominantly defenders that are moving forward as sort of a wing back position. Now, the problem is then that we're talking about a team that needs to be scoring more goals and be looking way more potent. And you're then talking about naming 5 defenders. But you could argue, I mean, Ricardo's bagged a couple of goals this season already. He and Thomas could operate as the sort of wing backs, if you like. And then if you're not sold on Thomas going forward, which I'm not either, by the way, then as naturally the balance occurs, he could sit a little bit deeper and almost then if Okoli's the right side of your defensive 3, a little shuffle across into more of a back 4 with Ricardo could then drop inside. Now, what that does though is that takes away for me Fatawu's biggest strength, which is hugging the touchline, drawing in fullbacks 1v1, because you'd be playing him there in a slightly more central position as one of the two supporting the striker. And I don't think he's got enough about his game at the moment to take that ball in tight spaces on the half turn in central areas that are likely to be a lot more condensed. So I like that formation, but I mean, Fatawu is undoubtedly one of our best players and is the person, if anybody is going to get us out of this rut, it's going to be him from an offensive point of view. I think that might be a step too far to take him out of his strongest position. Let's have a look at what Daedalus is saying that Cifuentes is missing an obvious fix with bringing Monga into the number 10, dropping James in alongside Winks, and having Mavididi and Fatawu out wide with Carranza as the striker. I mean, there is a good shout there for getting Monga, Fatawu and Mavididi into that attacking midfield 3. I personally agree with you, Daedalus, that James is better as a 6 or an 8 rather than a 10. But obviously with the injury to Ramsey and the reshuffle of formations, I don't think Cifuentes believes that number 10 is James's best position. But at the moment we don't. Well, we do have the choice, obviously, because you're presenting us with one there, but that's a possible option as well. So be interesting to see the team because obviously it should have been a win against Borough, a fairly undeserved one, but it should have been. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Cifuentes goes, right, you lot worked hard, I'm going to name most of you in the starting lineup again on Saturday or not. We're rapidly approaching the final 5 minutes of the program, the show, the podcast, whatever you want to call it. Very quick note on Norwich. The first word that I've written underneath Norwich on my notes is rubbish. They are bad. They are a bad team this season. Before they drew with Sheffield Wednesday last night, 1-1, they'd lost 6 in a row. And many would argue that a 1-1 draw against Sheffield Wednesday is basically a defeat anyway, because they are gone. They're out of the Championship. They're in the relegation zone. The manager and the captain were arguing on the touchline during an injury break where they were having a tactical conversation. So, I mean, if we're talking about Leicester being a team in a mini crisis, then Norwich is certainly either on par or even worse than us. One saving grace they've got is a striker who's got 5 goals this season, as opposed to our best goal scorer, which is Fatawu, who won 3. So Josh Sargent's got 5, Makama's got 3. 2 of their players have got more than half of their goals between them. So they do have a little bit of individual quality, but regardless of how badly we're playing at the moment and how much of a rut we're in, they're in a worse one, and we should go and batter them on Saturday, Jono.
You would hope, but football's not played on paper. People keep telling me that. So yeah, hopefully we can get one of the strikers to actually bag a goal or 2, maybe. I fancy us for a win. Strangely, after the last few weeks, on the back of the Borough game, having seen a little bit more in terms of a performance than I saw against who was it on Saturday? I've forgotten now. Keep losing my mind, but the Saturday game, which I was at, shocking that I can't remember. Anyway, regardless of that, yeah, I do fancy us to go and get something at Norwich, just because, like you say, they are shocking. And if we can't get something at Norwich, then maybe there is some alarm bells that need to start ringing even more than they are. So 3 points, I think, is an absolute must. One way or another. I don't care how it happens. Just get 3 points and go from there. I think 3 points against a really crap team is probably what we would expect or what we would hope for. But they've got to deliver it. And we haven't seen the 3 points for quite a long time, it feels like, anyway. And so against such a poor team, yeah, it's got to happen. If we get another draw, I don't think that's acceptable. So by hook or by crook, we've got to win.
Yeah, absolutely don't care how it happens. We'll do predictions right at the end of the show. I know we're nearly there. One thing I want to bring into the preview, and this could be a fun quiz for you to play along with at home as well, is when we get to an opponent, because I've noticed basically we give the opponent about a minute, and I normally say they're not as good as us, and that's that. But what I actually thought would be to see if we've got any players that have a connection to both clubs, have played for both clubs. So if you are watching back retrospectively or listening to the podcast, then feel free to pause it in a second and try and think of some past players who've played for both Leicester and Norwich. If you're doing that live, you haven't got that luxury, unfortunately, so your brains are going to have to work pretty quick. Jono and I had a very quick chat about this before we went live, and I said, strangely, the first name that came into my head, which I'm not sure how it happened, was Harry Kane, swiftly followed by Darren Eadie. They were my first 2 thoughts before I got to the more obvious ones, like, let's say, James Maddison, probably the most obvious and fairly recent one. Jono, what couple of names came into your head for past players before you looked it up?
Well, initially I thought Darren Eadie, I thought Ewan Roberts, and then I thought straight after that Schlupp and Mark Robbins. They were the sort of 5 that initially came to my head. But I was surprised to even find that Steve Walsh has played for Norwich, albeit I think only 4 times, but he's played for both. And yeah, I think you pointed out Adi Akinbaye. Who can forget him? What a star he was for us. And yeah, the other one that was an absolute star signing for us was Ryan Bennett. Who remembers him? The one, I think he only played for us once, or maybe more than that, but he was a shocking signing. So we've had some shockers from Norwich.
There is some dross in there, yeah, and you're thinking back to the days when I had a season ticket, when we were languishing in the sort of lower reaches of the Championship. There's people like Carl Court, Elvis Hammond, Stephen Hughes, Darren Kenton, some really, really average footballers knocking about in there, as well as the ones that we've mentioned as well. So
other ones, Ryan Bertrand.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
Yeah. Too many. A lot to count. But hopefully if you were playing along with that not live, then hopefully you got some of those random ones as well. There are more. We won't go through them all. Right. We are right at the end of the podcast now. It is prediction time. If you're watching live, you've got a very, very short amount of time to get your predictions in for Leicester versus Norwich on Saturday. Blue Fox Forever said Norwich should be a winnable game, but hard to see where the goals will come from. So I will let that inspire my prediction, Blue Fox Forever, and I'm going to go for a really miserable but fairly gutsy 1-0 win, courtesy of Yannick Vestergaard's third goal of the season off his shin. That's what I'm going for. 1-0 Vestergaard shinner.
Vestergaard, top scorer for us, isn't he? Shocking. Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 because I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. Annoyingly, I want us to, but yeah, 2-1. Where those 2 goals are going to come from, I don't know, but I suspect probably if it is 2-1, it will be from the midfield, or maybe if Fataru's due another worldie, isn't he? He hasn't scored a worldie for a while, so maybe Fataru again to scream one in from 30 yards or something.
That's the only way we win games these days, isn't it, Jono?
Exactly, yeah.
The final whistle saying 1-1. Blue Fox Forever. We're on the same wavelength, I think, this evening. Norwich 0, Leicester 1.
But I'm not anticipating much quality. I think it will be a dreadful match. But yeah, 3 points, please. That's all that matters. I think that's all we want. I don't care about the performance necessarily, although it would be nice to see some energy and some appetite in the players on the pitch. But all that matters is 3 points. I think that will give Marty a base to be able to hopefully build some more confidence in future games and start potentially getting us back on track. We'll see.
If you are watching or listening and you are planning to go, or you are going on Saturday, well done to you. We take our hats off to you. It's a bit of a trek across to Norwich for what will probably be a fairly difficult afternoon of watching. Talking of watching, thank you very much if you have watched along live and for getting in touch with us. If you're watching back or listening back, great to see you, and we appreciate everybody who is supporting the podcast. We are now giving back to you. I will finish on this. If you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, you will automatically be in the draw for a prize. Not just a terrible little prize. This is a decent prize. It's a Leicester shirt of your choice, or a full kit if you prefer. And all you need to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you need to have done that by December the 1st. If you have done that already, great, you're in the draw. If you haven't, then get it done. You also get notified then when we go live, so you won't miss any live episodes or any uploaded content in the meantime. Jono, thank you very much for your time. Everybody that's watching and listening at home, let's pray for 3 points, however they come.